Unbreakable Focus, a speech in the style of Elon Musk. Look, there's this myth floating around that success is about luck, about timing, about having the right connections. Sure, those things help, but they're not the core engine. The real engine, the unshakable core that drives results, is something far less glamorous, far more brutal. Focus, relentless, obsessive, unbreakable focus. That's what moves the needle. That's what separates people who talk from people who build. You want to build something that matters, then you're going to have to shut out the noise, and there's a lot of noise. The world is constantly screaming for your attention, texts, notifications, opinions, distractions disguised as productivity. It's engineered that way. The system isn't designed for deep work. It's designed for quick hits of dopamine. But you have to be smarter than the system. You have to override it. You have to decide consciously what you're going to focus on, and then refuse to let go. Most people spread themselves too thin. They chase 5 things at once and make progress on none. The key is to pick the one thing that truly matters, the one that actually moves humanity forward, or moves your life forward, and lock onto it with everything you have. Tunnel vision isn't a flaw if you're digging in the right direction. It's a requirement. People will tell you to be balanced. That's fine if your goal is mediocrity. If your goal is revolution, forget balance. Focus is inherently unbalanced. You pour all your energy into the problem until you crack it. You go all in. You give up things. You say no to good opportunities so you can say yes to the great one. That's how hard problems get solved. And yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. Real focus is not a flowery Instagram quote. It's you at 3 a.m. staring at a problem you can't solve yet, refusing to quit. It's sacrificing comfort, sometimes sleep, often popularity. But the payoff, it's exponential. If you can learn to lock in, really lock in when others drift, you multiply your advantage, you build momentum, you get to first principles faster, you start bending reality around your will. Here's the truth. Intelligence matters, sure. Creativity, definitely. But if you can't focus, those gifts are wasted. You'll get lapped by someone who isn't as smart, but who refuses to be distracted. Focus beats talent when talent doesn't focus. Every time. Distractions are infinite. Time isn't. Every second you give away is one you don't get back. That should scare you, but more than fear, it should sharpen you. Pressure is a privilege. The most meaningful breakthroughs come when your attention is undivided and your back is against the wall. You don't need more time. You need more focus in the time you already have. So here's the challenge. Pick the target, narrow the scope, cut the noise, build a system around focus, obsess over progress, ruthlessly eliminate distractions. When people call you extreme, they're right, but extreme is what it takes. Focus isn't just a tactic, it's a lifestyle. It's the force multiplier behind everything worth building. And when you're truly focused, people will feel it. They'll feel it in your intensity, in your clarity, in your results. They won't know how you do it. That's because most people have never tasted what it feels like to be truly locked in. But once you do, there's no going back. Focus becomes your edge, your weapon, your identity. You don't need to be the most talented person in the room. You just need to be the one who refuses to be distracted. You need to be the one who decides what matters and then never looks away. That's what unbreakable focus looks like. That's how things get built. That's how the future gets made. Focus is a decision, not a trait. Choose it relentlessly. People like to believe that focus is something you're born with, like a personality trait or a genetic gift, but it's not. It's a choice, a hard one, repeated every day, sometimes every hour, especially when the world is pulling you in 1,000 different directions. You don't wake up one morning with an elite level of focus wired into your brain. It doesn't come from motivation or inspiration. It comes from ruthless prioritization, from knowing exactly what you're trying to do and refusing to allow anything else to interfere with it. You have to train your mind to stay locked in when it's far easier to drift. The human brain is naturally curious, which is a strength when guided, but a weakness when left unchecked. You get pulled into rabbit holes of distraction. You jump from one shallow task to the next, and you confuse motion with progress. Real focus isn't about doing more things. It's about doing fewer things better, deeper, with more intensity than anyone else is willing to give. Making the decision to focus means cutting off other options. That's where most people fail. They don't want to say no to everything else. They want to chase 5 dreams and end up with none. They want to be liked, to stay comfortable, to avoid sacrifice. But choosing focus means choosing discomfort. It means walking away from things that look good so you can chase the one thing that could be great. It means being misunderstood because the focused mind seems obsessive to the scattered one. When you're locked in on one pursuit, people will question it. They'll tell you to diversify, to ease up, to enjoy life. What they don't understand is that the joy comes from depth, from going all in, from making something that actually matters. The world is loud. It wants your attention because attention is currency. Every app, every platform, every headline is engineered to pull you out of your zone and into theirs. They profit when you lose your focus. You don't. You lose progress momentum, time the only thing you can't get back, so you have to be ruthless. You have to treat your attention like it's sacred, because it is. Guard it with the same intensity you'd guard your most valuable assets. Structure your day to eliminate the trivial. Build systems that protect your mind from noise. Train your brain to go deep again, because deep work is becoming rare, and the rare is valuable. Focus is not something you try to do. It's something you design your life around. You don't stumble into high-level concentration. You create an environment where it's the default. You remove friction, you minimize decision fatigue, you eliminate distractions before they have a chance to tempt you. You don't wait for the perfect moment to focus, because it never comes. You create it, and when that moment comes, when your brain fights to drift, when it wants to check something, when it wants a quick hit of dopamine, you resist. You bring it back to the task over and over again. That's what builds mental endurance. That's what compounds over time into mastery. The people who accomplish the extraordinary aren't the ones who multitask their way through life. They're the ones who picked one mission and gave it everything. They turned down shortcuts. They missed out on parties, trends, even other opportunities, because they understood something most don't, that greatness requires sacrifice. That the world doesn't hand you results for being interested. It rewards those who are obsessed, those who can wake up and still care, those who can grind when it's not fun, those who can sit with a problem longer than anyone else until the answer breaks through the wall. And when you're truly focused, the world shifts. Problems that looked impossible start to unravel. Skills that felt distant become familiar. You start to feel the difference between busy and effective. You see the compound effect of deep attention. Ideas connect, patterns emerge. You build momentum, and momentum is a force multiplier, but it only shows up for the discipline. The ones who keep showing up, the ones who decide again and again to say no to everything that doesn't serve the mission. Choosing focus is a daily battle, not once, not when it's convenient, every day. You don't win it with willpower alone. You win it with systems, with commitment, with clarity so sharp that every distraction becomes obviously irrelevant. You stop negotiating with your brain. You stop giving it an out. You remind it that the mission matters more, that comfort can wait, that the dopamine can wait. That success doesn't come from stimulus, but from stamina, the stamina to go deep, to push through boredom, to reject ease in favor of excellence. You have to condition yourself to thrive in monotony, to find flow in repetition, because that's where the breakthroughs live, not in the first hour of work, but in the 5th. Not in the brainstorming, but in the building. Not in the idea, but in the execution. Anyone can be excited for 5 minutes. Very few can stay focused for 5 years. That's the gap. That's the separator. That's the decision most people avoid, because it's not sexy. It's not entertaining. It's not instantly gratifying, but it works, and it compounds, and it changes you when you choose focus relentlessly. You start to build a different identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who finishes. As someone who locks in, as someone who commits. That's powerful, that's rare, that's the kind of mental architecture that gets you through the setbacks, through the criticism, through the internal noise. Because it's not about feeling like focusing, it's about doing it anyway. It's about becoming the kind of person who follows through, who doesn't flinch when things get hard, who leans into resistance and keeps moving forward. There will always be temptations. There will always be noise. There will always be easier paths. But if you can keep choosing focus again and again, you build an edge that can't be copied. You build something most never will, because focus isn't a gift. It's not reserved for the few. It's available to anyone who's willing to fight for it. It's the decision you make when no one's watching. It's the invisible discipline that drives visible results. It's the quiet force behind every world-changing idea, every revolutionary product, every bold leap forward. It's the thread that weaves through every chapter of real progress. And it's the one choice you have full control over, no matter your circumstances, no matter your starting point, no matter what stands in your way. Distractions are engineered. Overcoming them must be intentional. The world you live in is not neutral when it comes to your attention. Every ping, every like, every trending video, every app notification is a product of design teams who understand human psychology better than most people understand themselves. They don't just want your time, they want your mind. They study your behavior, test what hooks you, and optimize it with algorithms that get smarter the more you use them. You are the product. Your attention is the currency. The more you give away without noticing, the more control you hand over, and most people never realize it. They think their lack of focus is a personal flaw. They blame themselves for not being disciplined enough, motivated enough, strong enough to resist. But this isn't a failure of willpower. It's a failure to recognize the playing field. Once you understand that distraction is engineered, you can stop blaming yourself and start designing systems to counter it. You stop trying to rely on self-control in a game where the odds are stacked against you. You start realizing that intention beats impulse, that clarity beats chaos, that you need to fight design with design. You build your environment like a fortress. You set up barriers between you and the noise. You remove apps, mute notifications, block websites, schedule deep work time like it's a meeting with $1 billion client. Because it is your future is that client. And if you keep ghosting it for every dopamine hit that comes your way, you will lose the one thing you can never replace. Time distraction is not just about being pulled away from work. It's about being pulled away from your potential. It's about being seduced by comfort and convenience when you're capable of creation. Every time you give in to the engineered pull of social media or endless scrolling, you're not just losing minutes, you're losing sharpness. You're dulling your ability to think clearly, to go deep, to stay with a problem long enough to actually solve it. The mind adapts to what you feed it. Train it to chase novelty, and you'll never be able to sit still long enough to build something meaningful. Train it to chase progress, and the noise fades into the background. You must become intentional about what you allow in. That means auditing your digital life like an engineer running system diagnostics. What do you open first when you wake up? What do you check when you're bored? What platforms take your time and give you nothing of value in return? What triggers cause you to reach for your phone in the middle of a task? Answer those questions without judgment, but with honesty, because that's how you reclaim control. Awareness is the first step. You can't eliminate what you won't admit, and once you see the patterns, you replace them. You replace consumption with creation. You replace noise with silence. You replace distraction with design. Intentional living isn't glamorous. It's not a social media aesthetic. It's gritty. It's boring. It means doing the hard thing even when something easier is available. It means resisting what everyone else is addicted to. It means deleting what feels harmless but slowly corrodes your focus. It means taking responsibility for what occupies your mind, because what occupies your mind shapes your outcomes. The brain, left to its own devices in a noisy world, will default to ease. It will avoid effort. It will seek reward. You must interrupt that loop with deliberate decisions. You must remind it daily, this is what we're here to do. This is the mission. This is what matters. You have to understand how powerful intention can be when it becomes your default mode of operation. When you no longer wait to feel like working, but train yourself to work regardless. When you build a schedule not around convenience, but around energy and deep work. When you make the morning sacred and protect it from external input. When you stop letting the world dictate your priorities because you've already chosen them the night before. When you create rituals that signal to your brain, it's time to focus. Now we lock in people talk about freedom. But the greatest freedom you'll ever experience is freedom from distraction. The freedom to choose your attention rather than have it stolen. The freedom to go deep rather than shallow. The freedom to finish what you start. That freedom requires boundaries, not just physical, but mental. Emotional, time-based. You say no more often. You guard your attention like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Everything you want to build, become, or accomplish flows from your ability to focus. And your ability to focus flows from your ability to block out everything that doesn't align with your purpose. It's not about being a monk. It's not about living in silence and never checking your phone. It's about being strategic. It's about understanding the game and choosing to play it on your terms. It's about making your phone a tool instead of a trap. It's about understanding that attention is finite, and if you give it away carelessly, you'll look up one day and realize you've built nothing. That your life has been spent reacting to other people's agendas instead of building your own. You won't always get it right. The pull of distraction is strong. You'll get hooked sometimes. You'll fall into loops. But the key is to notice faster, to recover quicker, to have systems that pull you back into focus. A reset routine, a clear list of priorities, a workspace that minimizes triggers. You create friction for distraction and flow for focus. You make the cost of being unfocused higher and the reward for staying focused more immediate. You create feedback loops that reinforce the behavior you want. That's how habits form, not by accident, but by architecture. The world is only going to get louder, more content, more devices, more platforms fighting for your time. The ones who win will not be the ones who consume the most. They'll be the ones who create while everyone else consumes, who build while everyone else scrolls, who stay focused while everyone else is scattered. Because distraction might be engineered, but discipline is designed. You design your mind, your habits, your systems to override the pull of comfort. You choose intention over impulse, again and again. Until it becomes who you are, until the noise loses its grip, until the only voice that drives your action is your own. Obsession over one goal beats scattered talent every time. It doesn't matter how smart you are if your energy is divided. It doesn't matter how gifted you are if you can't commit to a single direction. Talent is potential. Obsession is kinetic. Talent can get you started, but obsession is what carries you through the grind, through the late nights, through the boredom, the plateaus, the ridicule, the self-doubt, the countless iterations that never see the light of day. Most people spread themselves so thin across so many things that they never go deep enough on one thing to master it. They try to hedge their bets, stay comfortable, keep their options open, but mastery doesn't live in options. Mastery lives in sacrifice. It lives in closing doors, burning bridges, and deciding that one thing matters more than all the others. Obsession is misunderstood. People think it's unhealthy. They think it's extreme. They think it means being reckless or unbalanced, but when channeled correctly, obsession is a weapon. It sharpens your vision, it eliminates distractions, it aligns your time, your energy, your decisions with one clear objective. It becomes your internal compass. You don't waste time wondering what to do. You already know. Every step you take is a step toward that one goal. Every book you read, every question you ask, every person you learn from is filtered through that singular lens. While others chase the newest trend or get bored and switch directions, you stay the course. You get incrementally better, you refine, you evolve, you compound, and that's what most people don't understand. Compounding doesn't come from dabbling. It comes from sustained, deliberate practice in one direction. You don't compound progress by trying 10 different things. You compound by showing up to the same thing with more skill, more insight, more urgency than you had yesterday. Obsession gives you that urgency. It creates urgency even when no one is watching, even when the world tells you to relax, even when the results aren't immediate. You keep going, not because it's easy, not because you're motivated, but because it's who you are now. You don't need a reminder to stay on track. You are the track. You've become it. Your identity and your goal are no longer separate things. Scattered talent can produce sparks. Obsession builds engines. It builds systems. It builds resilience. It makes you dangerous in the best way, because you're not reliant on mood. You're not dependent on inspiration. You're not waiting for the right moment. You are the moment. You bring the weight of consistency, the weight of commitment, the weight of 1,000 hours stacked behind every move you make. And while others are busy being good at many things, you are becoming elite at one. You are going deeper than anyone is willing to go. That depth is what makes you irreplaceable. That depth is what gives you an edge no one can replicate overnight. The world rewards the exceptional, not the well-rounded, not the safe, not the easily distracted. The exceptional, and the exceptional are almost always obsessive. They're the ones who keep pushing even after others stop. They're the ones who think about their goal in the shower, while driving, while lying in bed. They don't turn it off because it's not a switch, it's a fire, a constant hum in the background of their mind reminding them of what they're building, and people around them don't always get it. They'll say you're too intense, too driven. They'll say you need to lighten up. But that's because they've never tasted what it feels like to be all in. They don't know the power that comes from absolute clarity. The peace that comes from knowing exactly what you're meant to be doing with your time. Obsession brings order to chaos. It makes choices easier. It makes decisions faster. When everything is filtered through one mission, you don't waste time debating. You know what aligns and what doesn't. You know what adds value and what's a distraction. You become efficient not just in action but in thought. Your mental bandwidth is no longer consumed by wondering what to pursue. You're already pursuing it, and that consistency allows you to build something others can't. Momentum, real momentum, the kind that compounds into something unshakable. People with scattered talent might look impressive from the outside. They have potential in all directions. They have a lot of open doors. But that openness is often what holds them back. When everything is possible, nothing gets done. Obsession slams the door shut on everything else. It forces you to choose. It puts you in the pressure cooker of commitment, and it's inside that pressure where transformation happens. You stretch yourself further than you thought possible. You endure more than you believed you could. You discover levels of creativity, discipline, and resilience that were previously hidden. Because obsession unlocks a kind of energy that talent alone can't access. It sustains you. It wakes you up early. It makes you work late. It makes you immune to the setbacks that crush people who are only casually interested, and there will be setbacks. There will be failure. There will be long stretches of silence where it feels like no progress is being made. That's where obsession matters most. That's when you keep building anyway. That's when you hold the vision tighter. That's when you stay locked in while everyone else gets distracted. You're not doing it for applause. You're doing it because you have no other choice. You've decided, you've committed, you've gone too far to go back now. That kind of resolve isn't something you're born with. It's something obsession builds. 1 hour, 1 day, 1 sacrifice at a time. Obsession forces you to become resourceful. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop blaming the lack of time, the lack of support, the lack of knowledge. You figure it out. You get scrappy. You push forward with whatever you have. That urgency creates innovation. That focus reveals solutions. While others hesitate and overthink, you act. While others dabble, you execute. While others look for motivation, you look for leverage, and over time the gap widens. What was once a small difference in focus becomes a chasm of results. You're not the same as you were when you started. You've evolved because obsession demands evolution. It burns away the excess. It refines your craft. It elevates your standards. When you obsess over one goal, you don't just become good at it. You become known for it. You become trusted, respected, and sometimes even feared. People know what you stand for. They know what you bring. You don't need to explain yourself. Your work speaks for you. That clarity becomes your identity. That identity becomes your advantage, and it all comes from the decision to stop being scattered, to stop chasing everything, to stop being pulled in a dozen directions by talent or interest or fear of missing out. You pick one thing, you give it everything, you build a life around it, you let it shape you, and through that process you become the kind of person who doesn't just chase potential, but turns it into something real. Unbreakable focus turns time into exponential leverage. Most people treat time as something linear, something you spend in equal chunks hoping for equal returns, but focus changes that completely. Focus compresses learning, accelerates growth, compounds skill, and turns every minute into something greater than itself. The difference between someone who spends 4 hours in distracted effort versus someone who spends 2 hours in deep, uninterrupted focus is not 2 to 4, it's 1 to 20. It's exponential, because deep focus creates outcomes that are fundamentally different, not just better. When you eliminate distractions, when you reduce switching costs, when you stay locked into a single task with intensity and purpose, you enter a state where time works for you instead of against you. Most people never experience this. They're pulled in too many directions: notifications, emails, meetings, conversations, internal chatter. It's endless. Their work is fragmented. Their mind is always shifting. They touch 10 things lightly, but never press into any of them with force. And so their time slips through their fingers. They're busy, but not effective. They feel drained, but they produce little. They put in hours, but nothing compounds. Focus breaks that cycle. Focus lets you take the same amount of time and produce something that would take others 5 times as long. Not because you're better, but because you're locked in. Because you're building force in a single direction. Because your mind isn't leaking energy chasing 10 thoughts at once. It's aligned, centered, quiet. Precise leverage is not just about tools or capital. It's not just about automation or hiring people. One of the most powerful forms of leverage is how deeply and consistently you can focus, because what you produce from that state echoes far beyond the time it took to create it. A single breakthrough idea generated in 2 hours of deep thought can be worth months of reactive busyness. A single system built in flow state can save you hundreds of hours later. A single insight, well captured, well executed, can change the trajectory of your entire path. But none of that happens in distraction. None of that is accessible when your mind is splintered. Unbreakable focus gives you access to nonlinear results. It moves you from effort-based returns to clarity, based returns from quantity to quality. From time spent to progress made, there is a level of thinking you can't reach without focus. A level of creativity, of synthesis, of clarity, that only emerges when you stay with a problem long enough to see what others miss. When you resist the urge to switch tasks, when you silence the noise and let your brain actually work through the complexity, focus is what allows depth, and depth is where excellence lives. Surface, level work can be copied. It can be outsourced, it can be automated, but the kind of insight that moves industries, the kind of product that defines companies, the kind of performance that sets records, all of that comes from depth. From people who give time the chance to multiply, from people who don't just show up, but show up with undivided attention. Focus turns time into a force multiplier because it concentrates your effort. It makes your learning curve steeper. It allows you to notice nuances. It lets you find patterns others overlook. It increases your signal time, noise ratio. It allows you to iterate faster because you're seeing the consequences of your actions more clearly. You're not guessing, you're not shooting in the dark, you're engaged, you're measuring, you're adjusting. This is how great things are built, not in random bursts of energy, but in sustained, focused progression. One step feeding into the next, one insight building on the last, each hour more effective than the previous one because your mind is calibrated, because your aim is precise, because your execution is relentless, and this kind of focus doesn't happen by accident. It happens by intention. It happens when you make it non-negotiable, when you design your life around protecting it, when you treat time as sacred and focus as the access key to amplifying it. You don't let the day dictate your attention. You dictate the day. You start with clarity. You define what matters most. You block time for deep work and treat it like the most important meeting on your calendar. You remove friction. You reduce cognitive load. You automate the trivial. You eliminate the optional. You make focus your default mode, not your emergency setting. The world will not encourage this. The world wants you distracted. It thrives on your inattention. Everything is designed to pull you away from what matters and into what's urgent, what's trending, what's addictive. That's why unbreakable focus is a rebellion. It's a rejection of the shallow. It's a commitment to the long game. It's a refusal to be pulled in every direction. It's you saying, I don't just want progress, I want results that matter, and I'm willing to earn them through discipline. That discipline is rare. That mindset is rare. But that's why it's powerful, because when you live this way, you separate from the average. You build something no one else sees coming. You give your time the opportunity to do something great instead of just something busy. There's a difference between being tired because you worked and being tired because you were constantly distracted. One leaves you fulfilled, the other leaves you frustrated. You can work a 10-hour day and feel like you accomplished nothing if your mind was constantly switching. Or you can work a 3-hour block with full attention and make more progress than most people do in a week. That's the power of focused time. It's the difference between hustle and flow, between pressure and presence, between movement and momentum. Focus transforms your relationship with time because it aligns your energy with your intention. It creates harmony between what you're doing and why you're doing it. That alignment creates velocity, and velocity compounds. This is not about being perfect. It's not about locking yourself in a room for 12 hours a day. It's about understanding the game you're playing. It's about realizing that your time is your edge, and your ability to multiply it through focus is your advantage. It's about being ruthless with what you allow into your mind. It's about saying no more often. It's about protecting your peak hours like they're gold, because they are. Your best hours shape your best work. Your best work shapes your best outcomes. And it all starts with a mind that can stay on target. Focus also builds endurance. The more you practice it, the more it becomes your norm. You train your brain to stay with hard problems, to resist the urge for distraction, to stay uncomfortable longer. That training is what allows you to tackle bigger challenges, solve harder problems, execute more complex ideas. It's not just about working harder. It's about expanding your capacity, about making your mind an asset instead of a liability, about becoming someone who can hold massive ideas, run with them, execute them, and bring them into reality when focus becomes your default state. You no longer need to force productivity. It flows. You trust yourself. You move with clarity. You create with intensity. You refine faster. You scale smarter. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You start building things that do. You start multiplying results in less time. Not through shortcuts, but through concentration. Not through hacks, but through depth. Not through speed, but through clarity. That clarity comes from unbreakable focus. And unbreakable focus is what transforms time from something you spend into something that works for you.